YouTube, what's up my fellow reefers? March here again in the Fag Box, and today I'm going to talk to you about hard coral, SPS, and I'm going to cover some of the easiest ones to care for. And if you want to get into SPS, or small polyp stony coral, that's what that stands for, which ones you should look for, and some of the easier to keep species to get you on this SPS journey that you may want to get on. So the first one I'm going to cover here are these ones, which are sort of MONTIPORA, and they are branching MONTIPORA. So MONTIPORA is a big family of hard corals, and they grow in a couple different shapes and styles and come in different colors. So this is one type where they actually branch out into open water. Here's a couple more. These are called MONTIPORA digitatas, and so they're really, really nice. They got this deep red with this funky green growing edge when they're happy. That's a really sort of easier coral to keep. SPS corals in general, I would say, are harder to keep in that they need cleaner water than other corals, and usually more light demanding, and they like a lot more flow. So they're going to be a little trickier to keep than maybe, you know, torch corals, LPS corals, soft corals, stuff like that. Your water needs to be cleaner, so when I say that, the nitrates and phosphates should be lower, and you got to pay more attention to some of the other elements like calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium. You need those things to be stable. These corals don't like a lot of fluctuations in the water, and so for that reason they're a little bit trickier to keep. They do better in, you know, sort of well or more mature tanks. Anyway, so this is, I'm getting off track, but anyways, MONTIPORA, the branching species. So this is a STELLATA over here. It's really cool, and this is called a digitata, but we usually just call it a DIGI. And this is a MONTIPORA CONFUSA. This one's kind of cool because it will plate and it will also encrust. So what does that mean when I say encrust? These are encrusting montis here. So you stick them to your rock, and they will literally take the shape and form and crust over the rock. They're not going to grow branches like these ones here. They actually need a base to grow on. So this first one is called a sunset. It's really nice. You get that kind of bright orange base with the cool contrasting green polyps. This is called Superman, so the blue and red. This is called AQUAMAN, and this is called Mystic Sunset. So they come in a bunch of different colors, and that's encrusting Monty. So that would be like the second easy type that you could try in your tank, but just keep in mind that they're going to cover the rock. So wherever you stick it, let's say for example, you know, you're going to stick it here on this rock, it's going to take that entire piece. And you just have to remember that Monties, like most corals, they don't have an off switch. So once they start growing and they're happy in your tank, you just have to basically manage them. The third type of Monty we're going to cover, this is the third one you might want to try. It's called plating Monty. So plating Monty is cool because it grows in sort of almost like a dinner plate away from the rock. So this is a purple plating Monty. This is a Christmas plating Monty. This one is called a Starburst. It broke off of a larger piece in Tia's tank that I'm going to show you in a second. This is like a small frag of Starburst Monty, and there's a red Monty. And just for an example, the way they grow, it's really cool. So they grow away from the rock into open waters, and this is why they call them plating, because they form these sort of layers or plates. And that's probably, out of the three Monties that I just showed you, the easiest one to keep. I have another really nice red one here also in this tank over in Matt's reefer. This one's pretty cool too. Well, this started as a tiny frag, I want to say 6 months ago, maybe the size of my thumbnail, and it's really just exploded. And you see that he's growing up, so what that tells me is he's not getting, or he can use more light, so he's growing up towards the light. And then once they get enough, they kind of plate out to the side. So he's doing this really cool, almost what we call cupping. He's going to grow almost like a rose or a flower towards the light. This purple Monty is also quite happy. So that's purple and red plating Monty. Those are really easy to keep, and they do well. Monties, they can take a little bit less light and still be happy. They're a little bit tolerant of lower light conditions, so that's why it's one of the maybe easier ones to try out. And this is another type of Monty too, branching Monty. So it's kind of unusual. And they're also, one other point to cover, they're easy to frag. So when this grows out, it's so fragile and brittle, you can literally snap pieces off of the rock with your finger. The other one I want to cover that's quite easy to keep are bird's nest corals. So they come in a couple different colors and thicknesses. This is one we call green goddess. This is a nice skinnier version of bird's nest with a unique, it's almost in person, I'm not sure how it shows up on camera, but it's got like a greenish yellow base with purple polyps. It's really skinny and pointy on the ends. This is a classic. It's been in the hobby for a long time. This is called PONAPE bird's nest. And then there's another one I'd love to show you that we don't have right now. It's called a Birds of Paradise. It's also really nice. Oh, we have a frag? Never mind. Thank you, Dillon. Let me show you the Birds of Paradise. We got one chilling here in the back. See if I can focus on it. There it is back there. So it's really cool and fuzzy and easy to keep for hard coral. When I say easy to keep, we're talking in terms of hard coral. Some of these other ones are a little bit trickier. Oh, actually there's a nice plating Monty too growing off the back pane of glass here in the reefer. That's kind of cool the way Matt's glued it there. So yeah, bird's nest would be the third or fourth one, whatever. I lost track of how many we've talked about yet. I guess that's the fourth one. That would be easy to keep and you could give a shot, and they're relatively inexpensive. Like a frag of this thing here in the store is 10 bucks. These are somewhere between, I want to say 20 to 50 depending on the size, maybe 40 bucks. These are all Canadian prices, so I'm not sure where you guys are watching from, but this tank here that we have running is going to be showcase more, I think, easier to keep coral. So we just glued a nice bird's nest frag there, and some of the forest fire that I talked about earlier, and there's some STELLATA, and some nice green goddess bird's nest up top, and some nice red Monti. This stuff's gonna, oh, what is that? Looks like there's some white sand or gravel on it. But I'll do a video again in 6 months. You guys won't believe how big some of these things can get. So hard corals generally grow a lot slower. Like for me, corals grow slowly. They're slow growing animals. And then hard corals especially slow. You know what? We're going to cover also, I guess we didn't do any Acropora. So we did Monti. And we did bird's nest. And we'll cover, if you want to get into the acros, here's a couple that you could give a shot. This one here is called tenuis. And it's hard to explain why. I know it's tenuis, you kind of just get to know them over time with experience. It's the coralites and the fuzziness. And I guess also when we order them from overseas, I have the permits and I know that we order tenuis. So that one is a little bit more forgiving and I guess hardier than some of the other species of acro. There's another nice tenuis, so that's one you could look for if you want to get into an acro species. This is called a millepora. A lot of times we just call it a millie for short. And it should be a lot fuzzier with polyps out, but I just moved it from our acro system here to shoot it for the video. So the polyps will actually retract into their own skeleton when you touch them. Like maybe I can show you here if you're interested on the tenuis, nice and fuzzy. And then if I go piss them off, you can see the polyps actually go in. This is another forgiving, easier to keep species of acro. It's called Tortusa. For short form, we usually just call it Tort. And it comes in some really nice purple and blue colors. It grows these thick, impressive branches in the tank. And I find it's hardy. It's unusual for us to lose this kind of stuff here in the store. I don't hear about customers killing or losing this piece. And then another one that's typically not, I guess, easy to keep, just because the way it looks, it kind of looks like a deep water. It's a Carduus. That's the, I think, the Latin name of this one here. The nickname or the trade name is called Red Dragon. So this would be the one exception to smooth skin or deep water acros that's actually quite easy to grow and keep. So I don't want to cover too many of them. There's hundreds of species of acros out there. But look for these 3 or 4 if you want to get into them: Tortusa, Millie, tenuis, and that Red Dragon. And then again, any of these Montis that we covered over here, those would be good choices. If you guys have any questions about keeping hard corals, SPS, LPS, corals in general, I didn't get to showcase Diggs, the dog, this time in the video. You know, you want to talk about bulldogs, whatever you want to talk about, you guys hit us up. I'll put our phone number, email address, and website at the bottom of the video, or hit us up in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys.